All right, let's dive right into this explainer. You know that feeling when you've just spent hours cramming, reviewing your notes for a massive test or a big presentation, and then, poof, the next day, usually right when it actually matters, all those details completely vanish from your brain? Yeah, we've all been there, and it's incredibly frustrating. But today, we're going to fix it. We are exploring a completely science-backed framework so you can finally stop forgetting what you learn, once and for all.
But to do that, we kind of have to start right here with a really fundamental question. It's the root of so much pain for students and professionals alike. Simply put, why on earth do we forget random facts so easily? Well, the harsh reality is that our brains are actually hardwired to forget random, isolated pieces of information. It's just how biology works. And this is exactly why rote memorization, just repeating facts over and over and over again, simply doesn't lead to long-term memory. It's an exhausting trap, and it fights completely against our natural wiring.
So if traditional rote memorization is just this exhausting hamster wheel that ignores human cognition, what's the alternative? Enter elaborative interrogation. It works because, unlike rote memorization, our brains absolutely crave stories. They crave reasons. When we finally give our brain a meaningful reason to hold on to a fact, that's when it actually sticks.
Now, to truly leverage this, we have to understand the absolute power of asking why. Think about it. Have you ever been around a younger sibling or a toddler who just keeps asking why to literally everything you say? Why is the sky blue? Why do I have to sleep? It can be a little tiring in the moment, sure, but kids are naturally curious. Neurologically speaking, this is exactly how they learn best. Or, if you don't really want to channel your inner toddler, think like a detective. A detective doesn't just collect isolated clues, right? They try to make connections to find out why something is true. Deep learning requires this exact kind of active, relentless questioning.
Okay, so elaborative interrogation. I know, it sounds a bit intense, maybe like a tactic from an espionage thriller or something, but honestly, it's incredibly simple. Let's break it down. Elaborative just means expanding on information by connecting new material to existing memories you already have. And interrogation, that's just questioning the material. So instead of just staring at a page, you're taking new information and actively asking why it is, how it is, or why it even matters. You're focusing deeply on the meaning, not just surface-level keywords, because meaning is what stays with us. So understanding all this theory is great, but how do we actually do this in real life? Let's put this cognitive science directly into action with a really straightforward framework.
It really comes down to these three concrete steps. Step 1. Identify the fact or concept. Step 2. Ask the why question. And step 3. Answer and connect. That's the whole shebang. And to start, you really just need to pick one single fact from your notes.
Let's actually walk through an example together to see how this works. Step 1 is identify. So imagine you're studying biology, and you come across this fact in your textbook. The human heart has 4 chambers. Now, if you were trapped in that rote memorization cycle, you'd probably just stare at the page and robotically repeat to yourself, 4 chambers, 4 chambers, 4 chambers. Not great. Instead, we immediately move to step 2, and we ask the why question. Why does the human heart have 4 chambers? Like, why not just one giant chamber? Actually, I want you to pause for a second here. Really force your brain to attempt an answer before we move on. Okay, here's step 3. Answer and connect. When you actually dig into the material to find the answer, you learn that the heart can't just be a single chamber because it has to keep oxygen-rich blood and oxygen-poor blood completely separate. Do you see what we just did there? We took a flat, kind of boring biological fact and connected it to a vital, practical function. And we can dig even deeper into this. Because it has 4 separate chambers, the heart effectively acts as a dual pump. It efficiently pumps blood to the lungs at a lower pressure, while simultaneously pumping blood out to the rest of the body at a much higher pressure. Now, just by asking why, you've naturally built this web of logic in your mind. You aren't just trying to blindly remember the number 4 anymore. You actually understand the entire mechanical system.
So we can clearly see how this plays out and helps during a study session. But let's look under the hood for a minute. Why exactly does your brain love this method so much?
There are 3 fundamental, scientifically backed reasons why elaborative interrogation makes information stick so well. First, it removes the illusion of competence. Second, it increases encoding. And third, it creates a conceptual schema. Let's explore exactly what's happening neurologically with each of these 3 things. First up, removing the illusion of competence. This actually perfectly mirrors the famous Feynman technique. You know how often when we read a textbook, the text makes perfect sense in the moment,
We get this false illusion that we're totally competent in the subject. But elaborative interrogation forces you to answer why it's true, and if you can't explain the why, well, you immediately expose the weak spots in your knowledge. It totally strips away that illusion, which forces you to achieve true understanding.
The second scientific reason is all about encoding. Think of your brain kind of like a computer. Elaborating on a topic is literally just like saving information to a hard drive. Because you are actively connecting this brand new information to existing memories you already possess, you're strengthening that neural pathway. You've drastically increased the chances that you can easily retrieve this file later on when you actually need it.
And the third major cognitive benefit is the creation of a conceptual schema. Think about an isolated flashcard. It's just a floating piece of trivia, which makes it incredibly easy for your brain to lose track of. But by continuously asking why, you're weaving those individual facts into a cohesive, sturdy web of logic. And a web like that, it's almost impossible to forget.
By transitioning your mindset away from passive memorization and toward this kind of active questioning, you are quite literally building a web in your mind. This is absolutely the future of your learning strategy. You're moving away from the frustration of a brain that's wired to forget random facts and stepping into the empowerment of deep scientific encoding.
Ultimately, learning new information shouldn't be about collecting facts like you're collecting stamps in a book. I mean, stamp collecting is passive, right? You just gather items and tuck them away in a binder. But real learning, that's an active, dynamic process. It requires you to interrogate the material. It requires you to build that web.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Why are you going to ask in your next study session? Seriously, the next time you sit down to learn something new, I challenge you to stop collecting stamps, channel your inner detective, and start building your web.